year before swine flu hit. That's all. What the big concern was bird flu. What's going to happen because we've seen a large increase of the amount of bird flu infections that were occurring across the country. And the biggest concern was whether or not this bird flu was going to somehow be transformed into a human version of the virus by mutation or by close contact with human getting infected and then that human infecting other people. So that was the concern before H1N1. Now, are state and local governments prepared? There has been funding from CDC as well as other government offices over a number of years, as I said before, for states to do pandemic influenza planning and to put together a plan for what would they do to address the issue of pandemic influenza should it happen. Now, this funding and advice and support that's been going on for a number of years, we kind of all saw how it played out with H1N1. It still ended up in kind of a little pandemonium. Even though they've been kind of talking about it, usually the routine that our government uses when they want to provide services to a mass number of people, they call the same institutions, the Red Cross, and other larger agencies that they have relationship with, and say, hey, we got these pills, give them out. Or we need to have a large number of people provide us some clothes, here's some money, give it to them. And that's usually their vehicle. But when you have a illness or agent that is spread by congregating people together, how do you address it? It becomes a much more difficult problem of how do you dispense, how do you decide when you have a limited supply who will be provided the vaccine. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that we're going to face with this particular influenza mutation. Now, who else should be preparing for pandemic influenza? In the state of Georgia, we saw really quickly that schools need to be preparing and that having some alternate way of conducting business if they have to shut down a particular facility. And that happened on one day on the dime. And this was at a nursery school where, they had parents who had to go to work and they needed to do something with their kids. And, you also had people who worked there who needed to earn a living. And it all got stopped on a dime. So how do you address that? Churches and other faith institutions who, again, all of the operations that would be occurring in those places would be ceased until you're allowed to operate again, small and large businesses and as well as families. What would you do if you were told that your family is isolated and quarantined to your house, and because you've all been exposed to little Johnny, you all are quarantined until you can show that you are not infected. So you have to isolate little Johnny in your house, but then all of you are now quarantined to your house. How long could you survive with what's in your house right now? How much water do you have? How much dry food or canned food could you survive if you were not allowed to walk outside of your house? And if you were not allowed to walk out, do you have a network set up where somebody will bring things to you? And in that situation, do you think they would? Because then they may have a situation where they might have to be isolated as well. And have you thought through, okay, could you leave it on the porch so that you don't have to have face-to-face contact? Those are kind of things that you have to think through as a family, as a church, or as a small unit. So how would you survive? And that even if it's just for 2 weeks. I know 2 weeks is a very long time when you can't walk out the door. Very, very long time. So those are the types of things that we want our communities to start to think about. Now, I'm not in any way suggesting that we should start hoarding, buy a whole bunch of bread up and, hoarding water, or those types of things. But you kind of have to think about, do you have 1 week of survival in your house? Do you have 2 weeks? Whatever your comfort level is. And I'll suggest at least 2 weeks in your house. And at least water and some type of carbohydrates, be it rice or crackers or bread or something that you can sustain you and your family for that time period. Now, what is DHHS doing to prepare for pan flu? Again, they have been developing up plans on the state and local level for a long time now. I don't know how great that plan is. It's amazing that when H1N1 happened, they kind of pulled the plan back up. And so we need to look at it first before we send this out to people and suggest this as the model plan. So I don't think they're very comfortable with what their plan currently says. Working with organizations such as hospitals to increase the ability to respond to pan flu, that's another big issue. We had hospitals and doctors' offices that were ran over. Anytime any person in the house sneezed, they would take them to see if they had swine flu. And the big problem is that, this novel influenza is going to present just like any other flu. And the problem we have in our community is, oh, baby, you just feel sick. We're going to put you in a room, get you some hot toddy, and, rub a little big salve on your chest. You'll be all right in a couple days. And we won't go to the hospital. And that's another problem that we have to address as a community, how we normally deal with our illnesses and how we move past, especially the men in our family who won't go to the doctor unless they're about to fall over. That, this type of influenza in the first stages is going to present just like any other cold. And if you don't start to have some regimen in mind about what you're going to do if you start to feel the flu-like symptoms, about getting tested, about using some antiretrovirals that might be available on the market to try to slow the progression, then we're going to have a larger impact in our community because of our behaviors. And because we're used to taking care of ourselves instead of seeking outside help. And also working with other federal departments to develop the plan. Again, what community should be doing is think about who are the community partners as churches. I think it's wonderful in most of the cities that we're going to that there are citywide groups that deal with, that have trustees and deal with financial issues, deal with some community action issues. But I have not seen a lot of cohesiveness in our black church where we say, okay, if you can't meet in your sanctuary, you can come meet over here in our sanctuary. If your congregants, if you can't serve, you have overflow of the homeless that you feed over your area, we're going to give you the extra that we have from our food bank to help feed your food bank. And so we have to start thinking about not only what community partnerships can we have with our city officials and our state officials, but what can we provide each other? Because I promise you that it is my concern that the only thing we're going to have if this really hits the way it could possibly is that we may have each other to depend on more so as a network than being able to infiltrate that system. Not only should you have a plan at your church, but you got to test your plan. That's kind of a problem that CDC and some of these other agencies have too. They had these plans that they paid some contractors to write up, but they never tested it in real life to see how does that really work? What are the other things that we impact if we close down a school for 2 weeks? What trickle effects does that have? If we shut down a business, we shut down your church. What are the other implications from that? And test it out. Now, swine flu, H1N1. We talked about it is an influenza A virus. It does not normally infect humans. And it was initially called what it is, swine flu, because it comes from pigs. But the CDC quickly changed it to novel H1N1 to try to take away that stigma and also to stop impacting the pork industry, which